You know how they say the truth has a way of coming out? Well, honey, sometimes you got to help it along. My name is Dolores Washington, and at 73 years old, I learned that the sweetest revenge is served at a birthday party with all the family watching. It was September 15th, 2019, the day my husband Reginald turned 65. The day his mama, Vivian Blackwood, thought she was finally going to put me in my place. The day I brought his secret son to meet the family. But let me back up, because this story starts way before that party. It starts 32 years ago when I was a young woman who thought marrying into the Blackwood family was a blessing. Lord, was I wrong. The Blackwoods own half of Atlanta's commercial real estate. Reginald's grandfather started with one building downtown. And by the time Reginald's daddy passed, they had shopping centers, office buildings, and apartment complexes all over the city. When I married Reginald in 1987, I thought I was marrying a good man from a good family. What I got was a cold husband and a mother-in-law who made it her life's mission to remind me I wasn't good enough for her precious son. See, I came from Decatur. My daddy worked at the Ford plant and my mama cleaned houses. I put myself through Spelman College working 2 jobs, graduated summa cum laude with a degree in accounting, and met Reginald at a church social. He was handsome, charming, and he pursued me like I was the only woman in Atlanta. But the minute we said I do, something changed. Vivian Blackwood made sure I knew my place from day one. "Dolores, dear," she'd say in that syrupy voice of hers. "The Blackwood women don't work outside the home. We support our husbands and maintain the family image." So I gave up my career dreams and became the perfect wife. I organized charity galas, hosted dinner parties, and smiled pretty while my mother-in-law criticized everything from my hair to my cooking to the way I folded Reginald's shirts. The worst part? Reginald never defended me. Not once in 32 years. He'd just nod along when his mama made her little comments, like I wasn't even in the room. Our marriage became this cold, empty thing. We had separate bedrooms, separate lives. I poured all my love into our church, New Covenant Baptist, where I taught Sunday school and organized community outreach programs. For 30 years, I accepted this life. I told myself it was enough. I told myself I was blessed to live in that big house in Buckhead, to have nice clothes and nice cars. I told myself love wasn't everything. Then, one Tuesday morning in July, everything changed. I was in Reginald's home office looking for our tax documents. We were refinancing one of the properties, and the lawyer needed some paperwork. Reginald was at a golf meeting, and I figured I'd surprise him by getting everything ready. I was going through his file cabinet when I found a folder marked Personal Confidential. Now, honey, I'd been married to this man for over 3 decades, and I'd never seen a folder I couldn't look in. My curiosity got the better of me. Inside that folder was a whole other life. Bank statements showing monthly payments of $5,000 to someone named Jasmine Carter. School records for a boy named Malik Carter. Birth certificate for Malik Carter, born October 3, 2003. Father listed as Reginald Isaiah Blackwood. My husband had a 16-year-old son. I sat in that leather chair staring at those papers, and my whole world just crumbled. 32 years of marriage, and he had a child I didn't know about. A child who was born when Reginald and I were going through that rough patch in our marriage, when he was staying out late and I thought he was just working too much. The bank statements went back 16 years. 16 years of him sending money to this woman and their son while I sat in our big empty house thinking I wasn't woman enough to give him children. We'd tried for years, went to doctors, did treatments. I blamed myself when it didn't happen. All this time, he had a son. I took pictures of everything with my phone. Then I put those papers back exactly where I found them and went to my room. I needed to think. That's when the plan started forming in my mind. The boy lived in East Point with his mama. I drove over there that weekend while Reginald was at another one of his golf tournaments. It was a nice little neighborhood, working-class folks, well-kept houses with small front yards. I sat in my car across from Jasmine Carter's house for 2 hours before I got the courage to knock on that door. When she opened it, I knew immediately she was his mama. Malik had Reginald's eyes, the same stubborn chin, the same way of standing with his shoulders back. "Mrs. Carter?" I said. "My name is Dolores Blackwood. I think we need to talk." The woman went pale as a ghost. "Oh, Lord," she whispered. "You're his wife." "Yes, ma'am, I am. And you're the mother of his son." She invited me in, and we sat in her small but spotless living room. Jasmine Carter was 38 years old, worked as a nurse at Grady Hospital, and had been raising Malik on her own with just those monthly checks from Reginald. She was a good woman, and I could see why my husband had been drawn to her. She was warm where I'd become cold, soft where I'd grown hard. "I never meant for it to happen," she told me, tears in her eyes. "I was young and stupid, and he told me his marriage was over. By the time I realized he was lying, I was pregnant." "Did he ask you to get rid of the baby?" "He offered to pay for it," she said quietly. "But I couldn't. Malik is the best thing that ever happened to me. Why haven't you ever demanded more? Why haven't you gone public?" Jasmine looked at me like I was crazy. "Mrs. Blackwood, your husband made it very clear what would happen if I ever tried to make trouble. He said his family had lawyers who could take Malik away from me, make sure I lost my job, ruin my life. I was a single mother with no money to fight him. Those monthly checks were the only way I could give my son a decent life." That's when I knew what I had to do. "Mrs. Carter," I said, "what if I told you there was a way to make sure Malik gets everything he deserves? What if I told you the Blackwood family is about to learn they have another heir?" Her eyes got wide. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking Malik should meet his daddy's family. All of them. At once." We spent the next month planning. I learned everything I could about Jasmine and Malik. The boy was smart, played basketball at his high school, wanted to study engineering. He was respectful, well-mannered, everything Reginald should have been proud of. But he'd never even met his father face to face. Reginald would send the checks and birthday cards, but he'd never once visited, never called, never acknowledged his son's existence. Meanwhile, I played the perfect wife. I smiled at Vivian's dinner parties, nodded when she criticized my dress choices, and acted like nothing had changed. But inside, I was planning their downfall. Reginald's 65th birthday party was going to be the event of the season. Vivian had invited 200 of Atlanta's elite to the Blackwood estate. Politicians, business leaders, society folks, all coming to celebrate her precious son. She'd spent months planning every detail, from the ice sculpture to the 7-course dinner. 3 days before the party, I made my move. "Vivian," I said, calling her on the phone, "I hope you don't mind, but I invited a very special guest to Reginald's party. Someone who's going to make this night unforgettable." "Oh? Who is it, dear?" she asked in that condescending tone. "It's a surprise," I said sweetly. "But I promise you, this is going to be a birthday party nobody will ever forget." Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. The night of the party, I put on my best dress, did my hair up nice, and smiled at myself in the mirror. I looked like the same Dolores who'd been playing the perfect wife for 32 years. But inside, I was someone completely different. I was a woman who'd found her strength. The party was everything Vivian had planned. The estate looked beautiful, all lit up with white lights and flowers everywhere. The guests were mingling on the terrace, sipping champagne and eating fancy appetizers. Reginald was holding court near the bar, telling stories and laughing with his business associates. Vivian was gliding through the crowd in her designer gown, accepting compliments on her perfect party. At exactly 8 o'clock, right when Vivian was about to give her toast to her beloved son, the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," I called out, walking through the crowd with my head held high. I opened that front door, and there stood Jasmine Carter in a beautiful blue dress, holding the hand of a 16-year-old boy who looked exactly like my husband. "Mrs. Blackwood," Jasmine said, her voice steady despite her nervous smile. "Thank you for inviting us." "Malik," I said, looking at this young man who should have been part of our family all along. "You look so handsome. Are you ready to meet your father?" The boy nodded, his eyes wide as he took in the mansion, the lights, the fancy cars in the driveway. "Yes, ma'am, I'm ready." I took Malik's other hand, and together, the three of us walked back toward the terrace, where 200 of Atlanta's most important people were waiting to toast Reginald Blackwood. "Ladies and gentlemen," I called out, my voice carrying across the garden, "before we toast the birthday boy, I have a very special surprise." The crowd turned toward us. I saw Reginald's face go white as he recognized Jasmine. Vivian's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the stone terrace. "I'd like you all to meet someone very important," I continued, my voice strong and clear. "This is Malik Carter, Reginald's son." The silence that followed was deafening. You could have heard a pin drop in that garden. 200 faces staring, 200 minds processing what I'd just said. Then Vivian Blackwood started screaming. "This is not happening!" Vivian's voice cut through that garden like a knife. "Security! Security!" But there was no security to call. This was a family birthday party, not a business event. Just 200 of Atlanta's finest, all staring at the 16-year-old boy who had Reginald's face and my husband turning red as a tomato. "Dolores," Reginald hissed, grabbing my arm. "What do you think you're doing?" I pulled away from him and stepped closer to Malik. "I'm introducing your son to his family, Reginald. Something you should have done 16 years ago." Judge Harrison, one of Reginald's golf buddies, cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should give the family some privacy to sort this out." "No," I said firmly. "Y'all stay right where you are, because this concerns everyone here. See, most of you have been doing business with the Blackwood family for years. Y'all think you know what kind of man Reginald is, what kind of family we are. Well, tonight you're going to learn the truth." Vivian stepped forward, her face twisted with rage. "You have lost your mind, Dolores. How dare you bring this situation to my son's birthday party?" "This situation?" Jasmine spoke up for the first time, her voice calm but strong. "This situation is your grandson, Mrs. Blackwood. This is Malik, and he's an honor student, plays varsity basketball, and volunteers at the Boys and Girls Club. He's not a situation. He's a beautiful young man who deserves to know his father." "Over my dead body," Vivian snarled. "Reginald, tell them this boy is not your son." All eyes turned to my husband. I watched him open his mouth, then close it. The truth was written all over his face, and everyone could see it. Malik had those same dark eyes, that same strong jawline, even the same way of standing with his left shoulder slightly higher than his right. "Daddy," Malik said quietly, looking at Reginald with such hope in his young face that it nearly broke my heart. "I've wanted to meet you for so long." Reginald looked at his son, then at his mother, then at all those watching faces. And you know what that coward did? He turned his back on his child. "I don't know what game you're playing, Dolores," he said, his voice shaking. "But this stops now. Vivian's right. This is not my son." The hurt that flashed across Malik's face was like watching someone slap a puppy. Jasmine immediately put her arm around her boy, but I could see his shoulders shaking. "Oh, Reginald," I said, shaking my head. "You want to do this the hard way? Fine, let's do it the hard way." I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. "Judge Harrison, you're still practicing family law, aren't you?" "Well, yes, but..." "Good, because I have here 16 years of bank statements showing monthly payments from Reginald Isaiah Blackwood to Jasmine Carter. School records for Malik Carter, showing Reginald listed as the father. Medical records, birth certificate, everything you'd need for a paternity case. The crowd started murmuring. Phones were coming out. I could see people texting, probably spreading this story all over Atlanta before the night was over. "You're bluffing," Vivian said, but her voice wasn't as confident as before. "Am I?" I looked right at her. "Vivian, honey, you raised a son who thinks he's smarter than everyone else. But you know what your boy never figured out? His wife has a degree in accounting from Spelman College. I know how to read financial records. I know how to trace money. And I've been doing some very interesting research into the Blackwood family finances." Reginald's face went from red to pale. "Dolores, stop talking." "Why should I stop?" "I'm just getting started." I turned to address the crowd. "Y'all want to know something fascinating? The Blackwood Family Trust has been paying for Malik's support for 16 years. That means every one of you who's invested with them, every business deal you've made, you've been unknowingly supporting Reginald's secret son." "That's enough!" Vivian screamed. "Everyone needs to leave! This party is over!" But nobody moved. You could feel the electricity in the air. This was better than any reality TV show, and these people weren't going anywhere. Commissioner Bryant, a woman I'd known from church for years, stepped forward. "Dolores, is this true? This boy is really Reginald's son?" Before I could answer, a new voice spoke up from the back of the crowd. "Yes, it's true." Everyone turned to see Dr. Nathan Cross, Reginald's personal physician for the last 20 years, walking through the crowd. He was a good man, went to New Covenant Baptist with me, and I could see the conflict in his face. "Nathan," Reginald warned, "you're bound by doctor-patient confidentiality." "Not when it comes to protecting a child," Dr. Cross said firmly. "Reginald came to me years ago, asked me to arrange private paternity testing. That boy is definitely his son." The crowd erupted. People were talking all at once. Cameras were flashing, and Vivian looked like she was about to faint. "This is a conspiracy!" she shouted. "You planned this, Dolores! You've been planning this!" "Yes, I have," I said calmly. "For 2 months, ever since I found out about the son my husband has been hiding from me for 16 years. The son he's been supporting with family money while denying his existence. The son who deserves everything the Blackwood name can give him." Before we continue, if this story resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next story. Jasmine was holding Malik close, and I could see both of them were overwhelmed. This wasn't easy for them either. They'd walked into a war zone. "Mrs. Carter," I said gently, "would you and Malik like to sit down? There are some chairs over by the fountain." As they moved away from the crowd, I turned back to Reginald and Vivian. The mask was completely off now. Vivian's face was twisted with pure hatred. "You think you're so smart," she hissed at me. "You think you can destroy my family? I will bury you, Dolores. I will take everything you have, everything you think you deserve." "Vivian," I said, my voice steady as a rock, "you can't take what I never really had. I never had a real marriage. I never had a loving mother-in-law. I never had a family that respected me. All I had was a prison with nice furniture." "You signed a prenup," Reginald said suddenly. "You get nothing in a divorce. Nothing." I smiled at him. "Oh, honey, you really don't know who you married, do you?" That's when I saw Pastor Williams making his way through the crowd. Pastor Williams had been at New Covenant Baptist for 30 years, had counseled me through the hardest times of my marriage, and was one of the few people who knew how unhappy I really was. "Sister Dolores," he said, taking my hand. "Are you all right?" "I'm better than all right, Pastor. I'm finally free." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "What do you need from me?" "Just pray for this family. Pray that the truth brings healing, even when it hurts." "I will. And you know the church is behind you, whatever you need." That's when Vivian made her biggest mistake. "Pastor Williams," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "surely you can see that Dolores has lost her mind. This poor boy isn't even Reginald's child. She's using him to try to destroy our family." Pastor Williams looked at Vivian with the kind of calm that only comes from years of dealing with troubled souls. "Mrs. Blackwood, I've known Sister Dolores for 15 years. She's taught our children, fed our hungry, and been a pillar of our community. If she says this boy is family, then he's family." "Of course you take her side," Vivian snapped. "You people always stick together." The silence that followed was dangerous. You people. In 2019, in front of 200 witnesses, Vivian Blackwood had just said "you people" to a black pastor. Commissioner Bryant stepped forward again. "Excuse me, Mrs. Blackwood, did you just say "you people" to Pastor Williams?" Vivian realized her mistake immediately. "I didn't mean, I was referring to what exactly?" This came from Judge Harrison, whose face had gone cold. "To black people? To the pastor's congregation? To what people, Mrs. Blackwood?" "This is ridiculous," Reginald said, trying to salvage the situation. "My mother is upset. She misspoke." "No," I said, my voice carrying across that garden. "She didn't misspeak. She said exactly what she meant. What she's always meant. What she's been thinking about me for 32 years. I turned to face the crowd, these people who'd known me for decades, who'd accepted me into their circles because I was married to Reginald Blackwood. "Y'all want to know the real truth? The truth is that for 32 years I've been living with a man who doesn't love me and his mother who thinks I'm not good enough because I came from Decatur instead of Buckhead. The truth is that while I was trying to be the perfect wife, my husband was creating a whole other family and keeping it secret because he was ashamed. Ashamed of Jasmine, ashamed of Malik, and definitely ashamed that anyone might connect him to a working-class black woman and her son." "That's not true," Reginald protested weakly. "Then why all the secrecy, Reginald? Why the hidden bank accounts? Why the confidential folders? If you were proud of your son, why didn't you bring him to family gatherings? Why didn't you invite him to birthday parties? Why doesn't he even know his own grandparents?" Malik had been quiet through all of this, but now he spoke up. "I always wondered why my daddy never wanted to see me. Mama said he was busy with work, but I knew it was more than that. I thought maybe I wasn't good enough." "Baby," I said, walking over to him, "you are more than good enough. You are perfect exactly as you are, and any man who can't see that doesn't deserve to be called your father." That's when Reginald finally snapped. "Don't you dare turn my son against me," he shouted. "You don't know anything about my relationship with him." "What relationship?" Malik asked, his young voice cutting through all the adult drama. "You send money and cards, but you've never taken me anywhere. You've never come to my games. You've never even called me on my birthday. What kind of relationship is that?" "The kind of relationship that protects you from this family," Jasmine said quietly, but everyone heard her. "The kind that keeps you safe from people who think you're not good enough because of where you come from." The truth was out there now, hanging in the air like smoke. Everyone could see it, feel it, understand it. The great Blackwood family wasn't so great after all. That's when my phone rang. I looked at the caller ID and smiled. "Excuse me, y'all. I need to take this." "Mrs. Blackwood?" The voice on the other end was crisp, professional. "This is attorney Amanda Reeves from Thompson, Washington and Associates. We've been expecting your call." "Thank you for working so late, Ms. Reeves. Are the papers ready?" "Yes, ma'am. All filed with the court as of 5 o'clock today. Divorce petition, custody motion for Master Carter, and the motion to freeze all Blackwood family assets pending investigation of financial impropriety." "Perfect. I'll be in your office first thing Monday morning." I hung up and looked at my husband and mother-in-law, both of whom had gone dead silent. "Reginald, honey," I said sweetly, "I hope you enjoyed your birthday party, because as of this afternoon you're being served with divorce papers. And Vivian, darling, as of Monday morning, the court is going to be very interested in how the Blackwood Family Trust has been managed all these years." Vivian's face went from red to white to purple. "You can't do this. You have no proof of anything." I pulled a thick manila envelope from my purse. Actually, I have 32 years of proof. Bank records, tax documents, trust agreements, business contracts. Amazing what you can find when you know how to look and where to look. You stole those documents. I copied documents from my own home, documents I had every legal right to access as Reginald's wife and as someone whose signature is on half of them. Judge Harrison cleared his throat. Mrs. Blackwood, as a friend of the family, I have to advise you to contact your attorney immediately. Oh, she will, I said, because this is just the beginning. I walked over to Malik and Jasmine. Y'all ready to go? I think we've made enough of an impression for one evening. As we headed toward the house, Vivian's voice followed us. This isn't over, Dolores. You'll regret this. I stopped and turned back one last time. No, Vivian. For the first time in 32 years, I won't regret anything. But as we reached the front door, I heard footsteps behind us. Reginald was following, and the look in his eyes told me the real fight was just beginning. Dolores, wait! Reginald's voice was desperate as he caught up to us in the driveway. We need to talk about this, privately. I turned around, and for a moment, I saw a glimpse of the man I'd married 32 years ago. But it was too late for that now. There's nothing left to talk about, Reginald. You made your choices. Now I'm making mine. You don't understand what you're doing, he said, glancing nervously at Malik and Jasmine. The family business, our reputation, everything we've built. Everything you've built on lies, I corrected him. And it's about to come crashing down. Malik stepped forward, and I was proud to see him stand tall despite everything. Mr. Blackwood, I don't want to destroy your family. I just wanted to know my father. Son, Reginald started, then stopped himself. Even now, he couldn't bring himself to claim this beautiful boy. Don't call him son, Jasmine said firmly. You lost that right years ago. We left them standing in that driveway and drove away in my car. As we pulled out of the Blackwood estate, I saw people still gathered on the terrace, probably talking about what they'd just witnessed. By tomorrow morning, all of Atlanta would know the truth about the Blackwood family. 3 months later, I was sitting in the courtroom at the Fulton County Courthouse, watching my lawyer present our case to Judge Patricia Hayes. The past 3 months had been a whirlwind of depositions, document reviews, and media attention. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution had picked up the story, and suddenly everyone was talking about the Blackwood family scandal. Your Honor, Attorney Amanda Reeves said, standing confidently before the bench. The evidence clearly shows a pattern of financial deception spanning nearly 2 decades. Mr. Blackwood used family trust funds to support his extramarital child while hiding this information from his wife, who was a co-trustee of the family estate. Across the courtroom, Reginald sat with his high-powered legal team, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Vivian was beside him, her face hard as stone. They'd tried everything to discredit me, to make it seem like I was just a bitter wife trying to destroy their family out of spite. Furthermore, Amanda continued, our investigation has uncovered several instances of tax evasion, misuse of charitable funds, and fraudulent business practices that Mrs. Washington was unaware of during her marriage. Judge Hayes, a stern woman in her 50s who reminded me of my favorite teacher from Spelman, looked over her glasses at the defense table. Mr. Blackwood, do you wish to respond to these allegations? Reginald's lawyer, a slick man named Harrison Cobb, stood up. Your Honor, my client maintains that all financial decisions were made in the best interest of the family business, and that Mrs. Washington was fully aware of all major financial transactions. That's interesting, Judge Hayes said dryly. Because the bank records show that Mrs. Washington's signatures were forged on at least 12 major financial documents over the past 5 years. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. I'd been shocked when Amanda's investigators discovered that. Not only had Reginald been hiding his son, he'd been stealing from our joint accounts and forging my signature to cover it up. Additionally, the judge continued. The court has received testimony from Master Malik Carter, who is now 17 years old, regarding his father's abandonment and the psychological damage caused by years of secrecy and rejection. I looked back to see Malik sitting with Jasmine in the gallery. The boy had grown so much in these 3 months. We'd spent a lot of time together, and I'd gotten to know the young man my husband had thrown away. He was brilliant, kind, and had a strength that reminded me of myself at his age. Pastor Williams was there too, along with half my church congregation. They'd supported me through every court date, every newspaper article, every attempt by the Blackwood family to paint me as the villain in this story. Your Honor, Amanda said, we're not just asking for a fair divorce settlement. We're asking for justice for a woman who gave 32 years of her life to a family that never valued her, and for a young man who deserves to be acknowledged and supported by his father. And what exactly are you asking for? Judge Hayes inquired. Full dissolution of the marriage with an equitable distribution of all marital assets. Recognition of Malik Carter as Reginald Blackwood's legal heir with full inheritance rights. And restitution for the fraudulent use of family funds over the past 2 decades? Reginald's lawyer shot up. Your Honor, that would essentially bankrupt the Blackwood family business. Perhaps, Judge Hayes said calmly. The Blackwood family should have considered that before engaging in decades of fraud and deception. Before we continue, quick question. What would you do in this situation? Let us know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. The trial lasted 3 days. They brought in handwriting experts to confirm the forged signatures, financial analysts to trace the missing money. Even Dr. Cross testified about the years of deception surrounding Malik's paternity. But the moment that broke the case wide open came on the 2nd day, when Vivian Blackwood took the stand. Mrs. Blackwood, Amanda said, approaching the witness stand. Are you familiar with the Blackwood Family Charitable Foundation? Of course. I founded it 30 years ago. And what is the purpose of this foundation? To provide scholarships and support to underprivileged youth in the Atlanta area. Amanda pulled out a thick folder. According to these records, the foundation has received over $2 million in donations over the past 10 years. Can you tell the court how much of that money actually went to scholarships? Vivian's face went pale. I don't have those figures with me. I do, Amanda said smoothly. $87,000, less than 5% of the total donations. The rest went to administrative costs, family salaries, and personal expenses for the Blackwood family. The courtroom erupted. Judge Hayes had to bang her gavel to restore order. Furthermore, Amanda continued, while the Blackwood Family Foundation was supposedly helping underprivileged youth, Mr. Blackwood was secretly supporting his own son, but refusing to acknowledge him publicly because it would damage the family's image. That's not true, Vivian snapped. That boy was never part of this family. But he was Mr. Blackwood's son, wasn't he? Biologically, perhaps, but— Mrs. Blackwood, Amanda interrupted, are you saying that a child's worth is determined by the circumstances of his birth rather than his character? I'm saying that family means more than just blood. I agree completely, Amanda said. Which is why my client, Mrs. Washington, has spent the past 3 months getting to know Malik Carter and treating him like the family member he should have been all along. That's when I knew we'd won. On the 3rd day, Judge Hayes delivered her verdict. In 30 years on the bench, she began, I have rarely seen a case that so clearly demonstrates the difference between legal family and loving family. Mr. Blackwood, you have failed not only as a husband but as a father. Your pattern of deception, financial fraud, and emotional abandonment of your own child is unconscionable. She turned to look directly at me. Mrs. Washington, you have shown remarkable grace and strength throughout this ordeal. The court finds that you are entitled to 50% of all marital assets, including real estate, business holdings, and investment accounts. Reginald's face crumpled. 50% of the Blackwood empire was worth over $20 million. Additionally, Judge Hayes continued, the court orders that Malik Carter be recognized as Reginald Blackwood's legal heir and be entitled to full inheritance rights, including retroactive child support in the amount of $300,000. But she wasn't done. Finally, the court is referring the Blackwood Family Foundation to the Internal Revenue Service for investigation of charitable fraud. Mrs. Blackwood, you may wish to consult with a criminal attorney. Vivian stood up so fast she knocked over her chair. This is outrageous. You can't destroy a family based on the lies of some bitter woman. Ma'am, Judge Hayes said sternly, you will sit down and be quiet, or you will be held in contempt. Your Honor, I said, standing up for the first time during the trial, may I address the court? She nodded. I turned to look at Reginald, who was staring at the floor like a broken man. Reginald, I want you to know that I don't hate you. I pity you. You had a chance to be a real father to Malik, a real husband to me. Instead, you chose to live a lie because you were more afraid of your mother's disapproval than you were committed to doing what was right. Then I looked at Vivian. And you, Vivian. You spent 32 years trying to make me feel small, trying to convince me I wasn't good enough for your family. Well, guess what? You were right. I wasn't good enough for your family. I was too good for it. I took a deep breath and felt a weight lifting from my shoulders that I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying. Your Honor, thank you for giving me my life back. 6 months later, I was standing in the kitchen of my new house in Decatur, not far from where I grew up. It was smaller than the Blackwood mansion, but it was mine. Really mine. No mother-in-law to criticize my decorating choices, no husband to ignore me at dinner. Just peace. Malik was at the kitchen table doing homework. He'd moved in with me after the trial, and I'd legally adopted him as my son. Jasmine had been hesitant at first, but when she saw how happy Malik was, how much he'd thrived having a real family, she'd agreed. Grandma Dolores, he said, looking up from his calculus book. Are you sure you want me to call you that? I mean, you're not that much older than my mom. I laughed. Baby, I earned the title of grandmother the hard way. Besides, it makes me feel distinguished. The front door opened and Jasmine came in from her shift at the hospital. She'd become like a daughter to me, and watching her and Malik together reminded me what real love looked like. How was court today? She asked, hanging up her coat. Judge Hayes approved the final settlement. The foundation is being shut down, and all the stolen money is being returned to the real charities it was supposed to help. What about Reginald and Vivian? I sighed. Reginald's in rehab. Apparently, losing everything was too much for him to handle sober. Vivian's facing criminal charges, but her lawyer thinks she'll get probation since she's 78. Do you feel bad for them? Malik asked. I thought about it for a moment. I feel bad for the people they could have been if they'd chosen differently. But I don't regret what happened. Sometimes the truth has to hurt before it can heal. My phone rang, and I smiled when I saw Pastor Williams's name on the caller ID. Sister Dolores, I hope you're sitting down. Why? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. The church board just voted unanimously to offer you the position of Community Outreach Director. Full-time, with benefits, and your own budget to run programs for families in crisis. I sat down hard in my kitchen chair. Pastor, I don't know what to say. Say yes. You've got a gift for helping people fight for what's right. We want you to use that gift to help other families who are going through what you went through. After I hung up, I looked around my little kitchen at my new family. Malik was grinning at me, and Jasmine had tears in her eyes. So, Malik said, from society wife to community activist. That's quite a career change. Baby, I said, pulling him into a hug. I've been fighting for what's right my whole life. I just finally found a family worth fighting for. 3 years have passed since that birthday party that changed everything. Malik graduated as valedictorian of his high school class and is now studying engineering at Georgia Tech, on a full scholarship that I helped him get. Jasmine and I run a support group for women going through difficult divorces. And me? I wake up every morning in my little house in Decatur, knowing that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Sometimes people ask me if I regret exposing Reginald the way I did, if I wish I'd handled things differently. The answer is always the same. I regret staying quiet for 32 years. I regret not fighting sooner. I regret not standing up for myself when I was young and strong and full of dreams. But I don't regret that birthday party. I don't regret the truth. And I sure don't regret getting my life back. Because sometimes, honey, the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting free. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.